Hey, I'm Byron. Welcome back to Let's Play Civilization 3 Conquest. We're continuing the Persian campaign on the Rise of Rome scenario. Of course, if it were successful, it'll be the Rise of Persia scenario. I do wonder what the relative ease of winning each of these scenarios is if you play as the quote-unquote winners. I usually play the fall of Rome with the Franks, who were sort of the winners. Really, I reckon Eastern Rome would be the winners of that scenario in history, but you can't play as them. And Middle Ages, usually play as France. I took French in middle school, and that's when I started playing this game. So I started to like France and played as France a lot in almost any situation I could. I played France as Napoleon. I like to play them. And the Franks, again. I already mentioned them, but I play as the Franks in the Napoleon scenario. Yeah. Anyway, that was a little side topic, but our main topic for today is baseball. Baseball. I wanted to go into the James Earl Jones speech from Field of Dreams just there, but I couldn't remember it. Anyone? Go ahead and you probably look it up if you're watching YouTube. You can look it up right now, and then come back, or don't. But we just had opening day. I lived in Kentucky. I used to live much closer to Cincinnati in northern Kentucky, and I didn't appreciate it so much when I was there, but now I love opening day, and I wish I could go more often than I do. I don't really get to go. It takes the whole day, usually during the week, and it makes it rough to go. And it's really cool when you live in Kentucky because you have UK basketball, which is so good. And so you have March Madness right into opening day. It's pretty cool to have all that sort of scrunched up. And when I was a kid, probably my favorite baseball player was Jackie Robinson. I read a biography on him because I had to read biography. Not because I had to read that biography, but because I had to read a biography. That was sort of one of the little elementary school assignments. We had they set apart every month, and it was sort of a different genre of book you had to read every month. And one of those was biography. And I think I always picked someone from sports. I remember the other one I did was Cameron Mills, who was a UK basketball player. I read his biography, and I think, if I recall, I read the Cameron Mills biography after the Jackie Robinson biography, even though the Cameron Mills biography, and maybe even been an autobiography, was much easier than the Jackie Robinson biography. And I think I remember the Jackie Robinson biography having much smaller print. It was the first, it's probably the standard size of print that books are in, but I remember just it was the first book that had that tiny print at the time. It was tiny to me. And now I have my Kindle set on the tiniest print possible, so I have to turn the pages less. Anyway, Jackie Robinson, he was really the first civil rights pioneer. It was, I looked it up recently, the baseball was actually integrated before the military was. So it may be the first American institution to be integrated. You might have to just, it can be considered, how about that? It can be considered the first American institution to be integrated. And like I said before, I live in Kentucky, and the four main actors, I would say, in the whole Jackie Robinson integration story, at least of the quote-unquote good guys, I don't need to put that in quotes, I don't think they were of the good guys. There were four major characters, Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson, but there was also Pee Wee Reese, who embraced Jackie Robinson at a Reds game, which is a different story. I may go into that, whether or not that story was true, but I probably won't. It's a little complicated. And there was also Happy Chandler, the commissioner of baseball, and he supported integration. I think in the movie there was one scene with him, and he was sort of an antagonist. He was against the goals, and that scene may have happened, but it's not in keeping with the general nature of they just made a great leader of the whole story of Happy Chandler. And so of those four, Pee Wee Reese and Happy Chandler, half of them were from Kentucky. So that's pretty cool Kentucky fact. Oh, I think I wanted to do a Kentucky fact of the day on this series, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But there's your Kentucky fact of the day. I did want to do that at some point, I think. I don't remember it that well when I was sort of developing this. And when I was living in Cincinnati, I didn't like the Reds as much as I do now. I was more a fan of the Phillies and the Braves. And that was back when the Phillies pitched the no-hitter against the Reds. And that was an interesting thing. And the Phillies, I think in general, that series with the Reds, they had better fielding. And this is going to come up later if I get to it, that good fielding creates good pitching, and I think it's really underrated. It's like a football, having an offensive line that allows the quarterback to sort of set up better passes and such. But if you have good fielding, it allows the pitcher to throw better pitches. And another thing that happened in that game was in the very first inning, I think it was Cueto who pitched a terrible game. I know I just said, fielding is what matters on defense, but now I'm blaming Cueto, the pitcher, for what's about to happen. It's a little bit, maybe this isn't that well thought out what I'm about to say. But Cueto pitched a terrible game, and the fielders, who are also the batters, were out in the heat for like half an hour. I remember they were out there for like half an hour, which hurt their batting, which hurt them when they were up batting. So that added to the thing, and that's the other thing. Both Johnny Cueto and I can't even remember his name. Aroldis Chapman. Apparently, he's a very good closer, but every game I went to that he came in, he blew it. That's what I feel like. Every game I went to, he just blew the whole thing. So in my mind, he wasn't that good because from the ones I saw, and on TV. When I watch it on TV, I'm not paying that much of attention that I might actually not know who's pitching. But when I was at the game, I knew, and he would always blow it. That's probably a coincidence, but it just made me not like Chapman. And then the opening day after that series with the Phillies, Cueto was the first pitcher, and he blew it again. It was... I did not like that. So those two pitchers I was not fond of, because my only memories of them are of them blowing it. Even though they were the two, it was the number one starting pitcher and the closer, which were arguably the two best pitchers on the team. I could talk about this for a while, couldn't I? Just specific games. And I'm about to go into the World Series, last year's World Series, which was amazing. It was the best. 2001 might have been better. I think I watched it. I don't remember watching it, but I remember having watched it, if that makes any sense. Like, I remember knowing that I've watched it. I saw the original Star Wars in theaters. I saw Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 when they re-came out in special edition. And I know that I went, and I just know that. No one ever told me that I went. I have a continuous memory of having gone, even though I don't remember 4 or 5. I do remember bits of 6. I remember in 6, I was excited because I was actually finally able to read the opening crawl, because in 4 I couldn't read it, and in 6 I could. And I have a very vivid memory of actually standing in the back of the theater, and this may be a false memory, but I remember standing in the back of the theater as the Emperor is force lightning on Luke. I'm getting way off topic now, and I just retook the city. I'm about to push back against Macedon. This one is so difficult. I'm not actually that good at this game, I don't think, on the normal speed, the speed that I should sort of be able to, without much challenge, succeed. And I am failing, and this scenario has always been tough for me. I don't know if it's as tough for everyone else, but it's tough for me, no matter who I play as. And Persia and Rome, I think, are your best bets, because Rome has the good units, and Persia has the big empire with the good food and production. And these scenarios are so short, even though I love the scenarios more than the actual game, I think. The scenarios are so short, the anarchy from changing governments takes so long, and changing governments is such a big part of this scenario that it takes a lot to win. Anyway, back to the World Series. It was the best possibly since 2001 that I think I've seen. Just from the looking at it, you had Game 7 and extra innings. I don't remember that happening. I haven't watched religiously every single World Series since 2001, but I've watched most of them, at least parts of most of them. And it was excuse me. It was the biggest thing. I loved it. Where was I? And even if you don't count that, the plays and stuff were amazing. I loved Kluber, or as I call him, White LeBron. I loved how when he just did not want to lose, so much that when he was batting, he did incredibly for a pitcher. That time, I think it was the second at bat of Game 4, where he did not want to lose. I think they had one out left, and he would not let them get that out against him and make him lose the game. That was pretty cool. I loved that at bat more than anything. That at bat was pretty cool. I mean, the last year's World Series was the two biggest losing streaks in all of baseball. So it'd be if the Cubs were playing, like, I guess full disclosure, I was slightly for the Indians over the Cubs. But if the Cubs were playing someone like the Angels or something, and they beat them, the Indians would have become the longest losing streak. Not the longest losing streak, the longest World Series drought in baseball. Which, would have been bad, but it's even worse now that they have the longest drought, because they themselves lost the World Series. That just sucks. And we may have a very long-standing rivalry on our hands between the Cubs and the Indians. That would be pretty cool to see. A big, decade-long rivalry between the two teams. But the AL Central is loaded. It has, I think, 3 teams that are great, and would all of them be World Series contenders if they weren't in the same division, in the Royals, the Tigers, and the Indians. And the NL Central is pretty weak. While they have one very good team who is bringing up the averages of the rest of the league, the division. They have the very good team in the Cubs. The Cubs aren't really presented with much of a challenge. Oh, and I remember the last year's World Series, Cubs fans were complaining about how you see this all the time. Whenever it's the team that's at the quote unquote disadvantage, they were complaining about how the home team advantage is given to the league that wins the All-Star game. And I remember before that wasn't the case. And I think it alternated actually before then. It just one year it would be the AL, the next year it would be the NL. It wasn't determined by any sort of record. But that was 2002 when they ended the All-Star game in a tie. And it outraged everyone because, and there was no reason for them to continue because the All-Star game didn't decide anything. No one really cared to win. And that outraged people. And so that's why they changed it. And now the All-Star game does mean something. And it doesn't just mean something to the one player who goes to the World Series because he doesn't know he's going to the World Series. It matters to, there's going to be at least 5 teams that have a very good chance of going to the World Series in each league. So at least 5 of the players are really going to care. And, even I would say 10 have a shot at that point. But when they were talking about the Cubs having a disadvantage because of the home field advantage, I don't think that's the case. And in fact, I looked it up. I'll come back to this, but I looked up a statistic that sort of backs up my theory here, and that is that the DH rule actually benefits the Cubs more than it benefits the Indians. So I think if it had been the other way around, where they were playing in Wrigley 4 games and in Progressive Park, I want to say Progressive Field was the Indians game field. It may seem weird for you to say I'm a bigger fan of the Indians and I know the name of the Cubs Park or the Indians Park, but the Cubs Park is famous, and the Cubs are famous. So the DH rule actually benefits the Cubs more, and that gave them the advantage. And it's not actually, I was talking to this and he said, oh, he's just a big fat guy. I don't even remember who he was, the designated hitter, but I don't think it's the fact that the designated hitter they each have, the Cubs one was better than the other, but I think the ability to stay at bat for longer each inning gave the Cubs more of an advantage. I don't think it was the specific guy they got. It was just the strategies of the DH game is better for the better. And I always make jokes about the godless designated hitter rule, how much I hate it, but I don't really hate it. I sort of like it, and what I really like about it is that it only exists in one league. That is such a cool thing to have in a sport. And before the DH rule, you would just put a decent batter in the outfield near the end of his career. If he was an infielder, like if he had a good shortstop, you'd put him in the outfield so he could keep batting, so you could still keep the bat, but he wouldn't be able to screw up as many plays. No offense to outfielders, but I guess it has more to do with less opportunities to make a screw up than it does to them actually not being good at fielding. And in Little League, the bad players get stuck in the outfield. But as you get older and older, the outfielders become more and more important. And this is just, in this game here, and the back to the game that you're actually watching, hopefully, this just becomes a quagmire, this little Asia Minor skirmish. It's so frustrating, this scenario. I should be able to win 7 of them. 7 of these games on what do you call it? The middle difficulty level. I say the middle, but when you may have seen in the title screen where I hit, it's not actually in the middle, but that actually is the even level. The ones beside that give the player bonuses, and the ones to the right of it give the AI bonuses. There's just a lot more of those more difficult settings than there are of the easier settings. And the thing about, let's go back to the DH rule. The thing about the DH rule is it allows them not to do that, and you can have actually a good fielder. But it doesn't just do that for the American League. It does that for the National League as well, because those old people who are good hitters, they get sent to the American League, and then they battle out their careers there, and it makes the National League have better fielding, as well as, and I was just talking about how fielding is so underrated, but it makes the National League have better fielding, as well as the American League, and that's pretty cool. And one thing I sort of want to do, this isn't one of the main foreign countries I want to visit. The main foreign countries I want to visit are Paris, which isn't a country, but that's where I want to go. I don't care about the rest of France. Sydney, same deal. I want to go to Africa, up the Congo, to sort of simulate the Heart of Darkness voyage. That would be so cool to just go up the Congo River. And I saw Anthony Bourdain in Israel, and it looked really cool. So I kind of want to go there too. That's in order. I think those are the four I really care about, and then maybe Mexico, and so I guess the 6 is Japan, because I really want to see some baseball games in Japan, because apparently it's amazing. They play it so much more passionately than we do here. And just as an aside about that, I do like the fact that baseball is played every day. I didn't like it. I thought, they should play less games, until Derek Jeter. I heard an interview with Derek Jeter, who said that baseball is a day-to-day thing. You play it every day, and it's so simple, but it made me believe in everyday baseball. And another thing, of course, he's a Yankee, so you don't really like Jeter that much. Although most people, even when he was playing, liked Jeter, but no other Yankees. But I didn't feel that way so much, but I of course didn't have as much hatred for the Yankees as other people did. So I didn't hate the Yankees as much, but I also didn't give Jeter the pass. So I probably dislike Jeter more than most people. I don't know. But a player I did dislike, and everyone disliked what he was playing, was Barry Bonds. But he said something that was pretty cool. He said about being able to hit the ball. He says the catcher, is able to catch the ball no matter where the pitcher throws it. The batter should be able to hit it. I mean, it's not a completely logical argument, but it's pretty cool that he didn't give himself the excuse that it's hard to hit a baseball. And that's just cool. And a lot of there are very few strikeouts, if you think about it. This goes back to what I said about fielding being underrated. Most outs happen on the field. And really, if you think about it, in terms of, because pitch count is so important now, that if you pitch to where he gets out in the field, it actually conserves your pitch count more than a strikeout. So it's better for the pitcher not to get a strikeout, but to throw and the pitcher can have an effect. Of course, has an effect on how well the batter is able to hit the ball. So you throw a pitch that causes an out in the field, it conserves your pitch count more than getting strikeouts does. I mean, you do. In basketball, there's the saying, if you have the open shot, you take it, even if it may not be the best situation. And I guess the same is in pitching, is that if you get the out whatever way you can. You don't really focus on pitch count, but it's just an interesting little pitch count. You don't care about how they come out in any way. You get the out any way you can. Of course, you do have to actually make some sense of where the runners are, because you can't let them fly out if that's going to allow someone to run. So you do have to take some sense of that. So the first thing you want to do is not let them score any run. The second thing you want to do is get them out. Anyway, back to Japan. That was a bit of a big aside. That the stuff I just said was, this is probably the one where I'm talking about so much stuff that's not in my notes. But Japan, and they do it great in film. One of the best baseball things I've ever seen, and the reason why I love this movie so much is because of the baseball scene, and that movie is Stray Dog by Kurosawa. It's an amazing movie. Anyway, that's baseball. I didn't get to statistics, really, or the unique way that baseball is played from almost all other sports, except the ones that are directly related to it. Anyway, this has been fun. I will see you next time. Bye.